So it all starts with the bean. But the topic really is not soybeans, but in order to understand the variability of soybean meal, we have to understand a little bit about the bean. We have 50% soluble, 50% insoluble. Quite a bit of that is sugars and oligosaccharides. And then we've got fat, roughly 18 to 20% fat, some ash, and 8 to 10% moisture in the typical soybean. So anyway, over the last 30 years, about a 1.5% decline in crude protein. So let's talk about the amino acids. So on the x-axis, we have crude protein from about 30% to 50%. And we have each of these essential amino acids there. Lysine on the top, and we have the amino acid content of the whole soybean. So as the protein of the whole soybean goes up, of course, the amino acids should also go up, and that's what we see there. And lysine is the steepest one. But if we look at the amino acid as a portion of the crude protein, we can see that as the protein goes up and up and up, those amino acids that are contained in that protein actually come down a little bit. So if you have a really high protein soybean meal, the percent of that protein that's lysine may be a little bit lower than a lower protein soybean meal. Am I on echo now? Can sing Caro, okay. That's a pretty significant portion of the cost of the feed, and that includes everything from the added amino acids and vitamin premix and the grain and oil and everything else. Here's a slide showing some data when I lived in Singapore, and we took one sample of soybean meal and we ground it in a Retsch laboratory grinding mill. And we ground about 15 kilos of this stuff and took the output, mixed it up very uniformly, and put it in small sample jars. And then I called different laboratories, and this happens to be Indonesia, Malaysia, Singapore, Thailand, Philippines, and one company in Vietnam. And we said, we're going to send you some soybean meal sample. Please analyze it for moisture and crude protein and anything else you can analyze it for, and send me the result back. And then we'll send you another sample. But we didn't tell them that we're going to send them the exact same sample. So the idea was to send each lab the exact same sample over time, 8 different times. And these are the numbers we got back. And these are all adjusted to 12% moisture. So you can see here, crude protein. You know, what's the crude protein content of that soybean meal? Is it the high one, the low one, or what? So, you know, not only are you dealing with variability of the stuff that you're buying, you're also dealing with a lot of variability within your own lab from, you know, here to here or across different labs. So it's very difficult. So you have to think in terms of probability. And here's some data from many, many samples, 74,880 that were analyzed by NIR at Advancia. And within the normal range of soybean meals would be between, let's see, this is total lysine as is and digestible lysine. So the higher the total lysine, the higher the digestible lysine, and but there's quite a lot of variability within there. And then they've got some samples way down here at the bottom, which sort of are involved in the regression there, but probably shouldn't be because they're sort of outliers for commerce.